My wife sat across from me at a lawyer's office in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, sliding a single piece of paper toward me, telling me she wanted every dollar left in our joint savings account before she walked out of my life for good. $5,000. That's what remained after 4 years of me pouring every spare cent into a software company most people, including her, considered a slow, painful failure. I picked up the pen. I signed the papers without a single argument. I watched her take that check and walk out of that office believing she had just protected herself from a husband who wasted years chasing a dream that clearly went nowhere. She had no idea, walking out that door with $5,000 clutched in her hand, that an acquisition offer worth $22 million sat fully approved in my inbox, waiting on nothing but my own signature to close. I want to walk you through exactly how a man loses his marriage and gains a fortune inside the same single week, because trust me, nothing about this story goes the way you expect. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe right now before we get into it. My name is Caleb Torres, and I am 31 years old. I grew up in a small rented house on the edge of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in a neighborhood where most fathers worked steel mill jobs that barely existed anymore by the time I turned 10. My own father worked as a mechanic at a small auto shop, fixing cars for people who often couldn't fully pay him, taking whatever they could offer instead, sometimes a case of beer, sometimes a favor owed down the road. My mother worked 2 part-time jobs most of my childhood, one at a grocery store during the day and another cleaning offices downtown 3 nights a week. I barely saw her during the school year except at breakfast, when she'd sit across from me with dark circles under her eyes, asking about my homework before rushing out the door. Money stayed tight our entire childhood. I remember wearing my older cousin's hand-me-down jacket through 3 straight winters, the sleeves always slightly too short, my wrists exposed to the cold every single day walking to school. My younger sister, Marisol, and I shared a bedroom until I turned 14, a thin wall separating our beds, both of us pretending not to hear our parents arguing quietly about bills late at night. My father got hurt on the job when I turned 12, a car slipping off a lift and crushing part of his leg, ending his mechanic career permanently. Our family survived on my mother's 2 jobs and a small disability payment for almost 2 years while my father recovered, learning to walk again with a cane he never fully stopped needing afterward. I discovered computers during that difficult stretch, spending hours at the public library using the free computers because we couldn't afford one at home. A librarian named Ms. Patterson noticed my interest, letting me stay past closing some evenings, teaching me basic coding through free online tutorials she bookmarked specifically for me on the library's computers. School felt like survival most days rather than genuine opportunity. I attended a public high school where plenty of kids came from backgrounds similar to mine, though I still felt the sting whenever classmates mentioned family vacations or new video game consoles arriving for birthdays. My best friend through those years, a guy named Devin Marsh, worked alongside me at a fast food restaurant starting at 16, both of us pooling our paychecks just to help our own families cover groceries some months. I taught myself programming almost entirely through free resources, building small websites for local businesses starting around age 16, charging $20 and $30 a project just to build something functional for shop owners who couldn't afford real developers. My father, despite his injury and constant pain, always encouraged me during those years, telling me that building something with your mind mattered just as much as building something with your hands, that both required the same stubborn patience he'd spent decades teaching himself as a mechanic. I earned a partial scholarship to a state university for computer science, working nearly full-time hours at a call center throughout my entire college experience just to cover the remaining costs my scholarship missed. I graduated with genuine relief rather than celebration, understanding clearly that surviving college represented just the beginning of a much longer fight toward actual financial stability. I met Brianna Kessler during my final year of college, working together on a group project neither of us particularly wanted to be assigned to originally. She studied marketing, sharp and ambitious, coming from a considerably more comfortable background than mine, her parents both working steady corporate jobs that afforded her family vacations, and a reliable car handed down once she turned 16. Brianna and I connected despite our different backgrounds, bonding over long nights finishing that group project, eventually staying up talking about our actual dreams rather than just coursework. She told me she wanted financial stability more than anything, having watched her own parents struggle briefly during a layoff when she turned 13, an experience that left her deeply anxious about ever facing serious financial uncertainty herself. I should have paid closer attention to that specific fear, understanding years later exactly how much it eventually shaped everything that happened between us. We started dating seriously during our final semester, both graduating the same spring, Brianna landing a solid marketing position at a mid-sized company downtown, while I struggled considerably longer finding stable work in a competitive tech market flooded with graduates just like me. If you already sense where Brianna's fear of instability eventually leads this story, drop a comment sharing your prediction, and make sure you've hit subscribe, because everything I built over the following years changes absolutely everything about how this story actually ends. I eventually landed a decent software developer position at a mid-sized company in Pittsburgh, earning steady, respectable money that finally let Brianna and me imagine a genuine future together, without constant financial anxiety hanging over every single decision. We married 3 years after graduating college, a modest ceremony paid for mostly through careful saving on both our parts, since neither of our families had extra money to contribute significantly toward an elaborate wedding. Brianna's parents helped somewhat, though her mother made several comments throughout the planning process about wishing we could afford certain upgrades, comments that stung more than I ever admitted directly to Brianna herself. We settled into a comfortable rhythm during our first 2 years of marriage, both working steady jobs, slowly building savings, discussing eventually buying a house once we felt genuinely financially secure. I loved my job well enough, though something inside me kept returning to an idea I'd been quietly developing on evenings and weekends. A software platform designed specifically to help small manufacturing businesses manage inventory and supply chains more efficiently than the clunky, expensive enterprise systems currently dominating that market. I mentioned this idea to Brianna during our 3rd year of marriage, explaining carefully that I wanted to eventually leave my stable job and pursue building this platform full-time. Brianna's reaction revealed immediately exactly how deeply her childhood financial anxiety still influenced her thinking. She said, "Caleb, we finally have stability. Why would you risk everything we've built chasing something uncertain?" I explained my vision as thoroughly as possible, describing the specific gap I'd identified within the manufacturing software market, sharing early feedback from 3 small business owners I'd already spoken with who expressed genuine interest in exactly the solution I wanted to build. Brianna listened, though her expression carried obvious skepticism throughout our entire conversation. She eventually agreed reluctantly, though she made clear she expected this venture to prove itself quickly rather than becoming some prolonged, uncertain gamble with our carefully built financial stability. I left my stable job 6 months later, using our combined savings alongside a small business loan to fund what I named Ridgeline Systems, working from a small rented office space I could barely afford, building the actual software myself during long, exhausting days that regularly stretched past midnight. The first 18 months proved brutal beyond anything I fully anticipated. I signed 3 small manufacturing clients initially, generating barely enough revenue to cover my office rent and basic living expenses. Definitely not enough to draw any meaningful salary for myself. Brianna grew increasingly anxious watching our savings account shrink steadily month after month, her comments during dinner conversations growing sharper and more frequent regarding exactly when this venture might finally start generating genuine income. I met my eventual business partner, a talented developer named Marcus Webb, during a local tech meetup roughly a year into Ridgeline's development. Marcus brought crucial technical expertise I genuinely needed, and together we rebuilt significant portions of the platform, creating something considerably more sophisticated and scalable than my original version. Marcus and I signed our first mid-sized manufacturing client during our second year together, a company generating enough revenue that Ridgeline finally covered its own operating costs, though still nowhere near profitable enough to provide either of us genuine personal income. I continued working essentially without pay, surviving on our dwindling savings, while Brianna's frustration grew increasingly difficult to manage within our daily life together. Our marriage suffered considerably during this period. Brianna started working longer hours herself, partly for genuine career advancement, and partly, I suspect now looking back, to create emotional and physical distance from a marriage she increasingly viewed as financially reckless. We argued frequently about money, about my seemingly endless optimism regarding Ridgeline's eventual success, about exactly when I might consider returning to stable employment if the business continued struggling. During our third year building Ridgeline, Marcus revealed something devastating during a tense meeting I never fully anticipated. He'd been secretly negotiating with a competing manufacturing software company, planning to leave Ridgeline entirely and bring several key technical innovations we developed together directly to this competitor, essentially recreating our platform under a different company name entirely. I confronted him directly once I discovered this betrayal through a mutual industry contact who mentioned Marcus's job interviews happening quietly over recent weeks. Marcus admitted everything without much shame, explaining that he needed genuine financial stability that Ridgeline clearly couldn't provide anytime soon, suggesting I should probably consider doing the same thing myself rather than continuing this increasingly hopeless venture. Marcus left within 2 weeks, taking crucial technical knowledge with him, forcing me to rebuild significant portions of our platform completely alone once again. I told Brianna everything that same week, watching her reaction shift from sympathy into something considerably harder and more resolved. She said, "Caleb, this is exactly what I've been afraid of this entire time. How much longer are you going to keep doing this to us?" I had no genuine answer for her that night, understanding clearly that our marriage had reached a genuinely dangerous breaking point I couldn't fully address through simple reassurance alone. If you've ever watched a marriage strain under the weight of chasing something everyone else considered a losing bet, drop a comment sharing your own experience, because everything that happened over the following 2 years changes this entire story completely. I rebuilt Ridgeline systems almost entirely alone over the following year, working even longer hours than before, driven partly by genuine belief in what I'd built and partly by desperate determination to prove Brianna's growing doubts wrong before our marriage collapsed entirely under continued financial strain. I hired a junior developer named Priya Chandra during this period, someone genuinely talented but early enough in her career that I could afford her modest salary while still stretching our remaining resources carefully. Priya brought fresh energy and genuine enthusiasm toward Ridgeline's mission, reminding me constantly why I'd started this venture originally despite every difficult setback along the way. We landed 2 additional mid-sized manufacturing clients during that 4th year, finally generating revenue that let Ridgeline become genuinely self-sustaining, covering all operating costs alongside a modest salary for myself for the very first time since starting this venture years earlier. I brought this progress home excitedly, hoping Brianna might finally see genuine evidence that our sacrifices were beginning paying off. Brianna's reaction remained cautiously skeptical rather than genuinely supportive. She said, "Caleb, a modest salary after 4 years isn't exactly the success story you're making it sound like." I understood her frustration, genuinely, even while feeling hurt that 4 years of relentless effort still failed earning her genuine confidence regarding Ridgeline's eventual potential. Our marriage continued deteriorating steadily during this period, conversations growing increasingly distant, physical affection becoming rare. Both of us essentially living parallel lives within the same shrinking apartment we could no longer comfortably afford given our reduced combined income. Ridgeline's platform continued improving steadily throughout that 4th year, our manufacturing clients experiencing genuine efficiency improvements that generated strong word-of-mouth referrals within their specific industry. A larger manufacturing software company, TechFlow Industries, noticed our growing reputation, initially reaching out regarding a potential partnership opportunity that eventually evolved into serious acquisition conversations by early into our 5th year. I couldn't discuss these acquisition conversations with Brianna initially, bound by strict confidentiality agreements that prevented me from revealing specific details until negotiations reached considerably more advanced stages. This secrecy created additional strain within our already struggling marriage, since Brianna interpreted my inability to discuss work matters as further evidence that Ridgeline remained fundamentally troubled rather than genuinely promising. Negotiations with TechFlow Industries progressed slowly, but steadily over several months, their team conducting extensive due diligence regarding our technology, client relationships, and growth potential. Their initial acquisition offer arrived during a particularly difficult period within my marriage, Brianna having moved into our apartment's 2nd bedroom 2 weeks earlier, following an especially painful argument regarding our continued financial uncertainty. I remember sitting alone in my small office late one evening, reading through TechFlow's initial offer letter, feeling an overwhelming mixture of validation and profound sadness simultaneously. Everything I'd sacrificed over 5 brutal years finally showed genuine, undeniable results, arriving during exactly the moment my marriage seemed beyond meaningful repair. Brianna filed for divorce 3 weeks after moving into our 2nd bedroom, explaining calmly during a difficult conversation that she couldn't continue living with constant financial uncertainty and emotional distance that had defined our marriage for years. She said, "Caleb, I think we both deserve better than what we've become." I couldn't genuinely argue against her observation, understanding clearly that years of financial strain and my own consuming focus on Ridgeline had damaged our relationship considerably beyond what simple reconciliation could probably repair. I agreed to the divorce, genuinely believing, despite everything, that Brianna deserved happiness even if that happiness ultimately existed somewhere outside our marriage. TechFlow's acquisition negotiations continued throughout our divorce proceedings, their legal team working carefully through final valuation details, while my own divorce attorney worked simultaneously through separating our modest remaining joint assets. I made a specific decision during this period that I've thought about constantly since, choosing not to reveal anything regarding TechFlow's advancing acquisition offered to Brianna or her attorney throughout our entire divorce process. I want to explain honestly exactly why I made that particular choice, because I understand it might seem calculated or even vindictive given everything that eventually happened. The acquisition remained genuinely uncertain throughout most of our divorce proceedings, several critical contingencies still requiring resolution before TechFlow's board would formally approve final terms. I genuinely didn't want to raise false hope or complicate an already painful separation with speculation about money that might never actually materialize. Additionally, and I'll admit this honestly, some part of me felt a complicated mixture of hurt and quiet resolve. Watching Brianna's genuine belief that Ridgeline represented nothing more than an ongoing failure, understanding she was choosing to leave during exactly the period when everything I'd sacrificed finally showed real, tangible promise. If you're wondering exactly how this entire situation unfolded during the actual divorce settlement itself, drop a comment sharing your prediction, because everything that happened during our final meeting with the lawyers changes absolutely everything about this story. Our final divorce settlement meeting happened on a gray Tuesday morning inside a modest law office downtown, both of us sitting across a conference table alongside our respective attorneys, working through the remaining details of officially ending our 5-year marriage. Brianna looked exhausted that morning, dark circles visible beneath her eyes that mirrored exactly the same exhaustion I remembered from my own mother years earlier during difficult financial periods throughout my childhood. Something about that specific detail struck me unexpectedly hard, watching someone I still genuinely cared about carrying visible weight from years of accumulated stress and disappointment. Our combined joint assets amounted to remarkably little after 5 years of Ridgeline's uncertain financial demands. We own no house, having rented our entire marriage rather than risk homeownership given our unstable income situation. Our savings account, once considerably larger during our early marriage years, had dwindled steadily down to exactly $5,000 following years of covering Ridgeline's ongoing operational shortfalls. Brianna's attorney, a sharp woman named Regina Foster, presented her client's requests clearly and directly. She said, "Given the significant financial strain Mr. Torr's business venture placed upon this marriage over recent years, my client believes she's entitled to the entirety of the remaining joint savings account as partial compensation for years of financial instability she endured throughout this relationship." I looked toward Brianna directly, watching her avoid meeting my eyes throughout that entire statement. My own attorney, a calm, pragmatic man named Julian Kwan, glanced toward me questioningly, clearly expecting some pushback given Brianna's request represented literally every remaining dollar we possessed jointly as a couple. I said quietly, "That's fine, she can have it." Julian raised his eyebrows slightly, though he respected my decision without further argument, understanding I'd made this choice deliberately rather than through simple exhaustion or defeat. Brianna finally looked toward me directly, her expression carrying obvious surprise, given how easily I'd agreed to surrender our entire remaining savings without any negotiation whatsoever. The paperwork took roughly another hour finalizing, various documents passing back and forth across that conference table, both attorneys reviewing language carefully before presenting each page for our respective signatures. I signed everything without hesitation, watching Brianna do the same across from me, both of us formally dissolving 5 years of marriage through nothing more than careful legal language and simple ink signatures. Once everything concluded, Regina handed Brianna a check representing our entire remaining savings account, exactly $5,000 that would technically become entirely hers the moment she deposited it into her own separate account later that same day. Brianna folded that check carefully, placing it inside her purse, still avoiding extended eye contact with me throughout this final, uncomfortable moment. She said, quietly, gathering her belongings, "I hope Ridgeline eventually works out for you, Caleb. I genuinely mean that." I said, "Thank you, Brianna. I hope you find exactly what you're looking for." She left that office first, Regina following closely behind her, leaving me alone briefly with Julian while he organized remaining paperwork for our own records. Julian looked at me carefully, clearly curious regarding my calm demeanor throughout an otherwise emotionally difficult proceeding. He said, "Caleb, you handled that considerably better than most clients manage during these situations. Any specific reason you didn't push back regarding the savings account at all?" I considered exactly how much to share with Julian, ultimately deciding honesty felt appropriate given everything he'd helped me navigate throughout our entire divorce process. I said, "TechFlow Industries submitted their final acquisition offer for Ridgeline 3 days ago, $22 million. My board approved the terms yesterday afternoon. I'm signing the final agreement myself sometime later this week." Julian sat there completely stunned for several long seconds, processing this information alongside everything he'd just witnessed moments earlier inside that conference room. He said, "Caleb, you just watched your ex-wife walk out of here with $5,000, genuinely believing she'd claimed everything meaningful you had left, while an acquisition worth $22 million sits waiting for your signature this same week." I said, "She never believed in Ridgeline, Julian. She spent years telling me it represented failure, that I was risking our entire future chasing something worthless. I couldn't share details about ongoing negotiations throughout our divorce given confidentiality requirements. And honestly, some part of me needed to see exactly how this all played out naturally, without money influencing anything regarding how we chose to end things between us." Julian shook his head slowly, clearly still processing the surreal nature of everything he'd just learned. He said, "That's either the most graceful thing I've ever witnessed a client handle, or the most quietly devastating twist I've seen in 15 years practicing family law." I left that office feeling a strange, complicated mixture of genuine sadness regarding my marriages ending alongside undeniable relief that Ridgeline's 5 brutal years of sacrifice had finally, genuinely paid off beyond anything I'd originally imagined possible. If you're wondering exactly how Brianna eventually discovered the truth regarding everything that happened that same week, drop a comment sharing your prediction, because the final section of this story reveals exactly how everything unfolded. I signed TechFlow Industries' final acquisition agreement 4 days after my divorce officially finalized, sitting inside their downtown Pittsburgh offices alongside Julian and TechFlow's own legal team, formally completing a transaction that transformed Ridgeline Systems from a struggling 5-year venture into a genuinely life-changing financial outcome. The acquisition closed formally within the following week, $22 million transferring into accounts specifically established for exactly this outcome. Priya and I both receiving substantial payouts reflecting years of genuine dedication toward building something meaningful despite countless difficult setbacks along the way. Priya cried genuine tears of relief and joy once we finalized everything together, understanding completely exactly how much uncertainty we'd both navigated throughout Ridgeline's difficult journey. News regarding TechFlow's acquisition of Ridgeline Systems became public knowledge within Pittsburgh's local tech industry roughly 2 weeks after our final signing. Several local business publications covering the story, given its significant local economic impact within the regional manufacturing technology sector. I hadn't specifically reached out toward Brianna directly, though I understood clearly this news would likely reach her eventually given our overlapping social and professional circles throughout Pittsburgh's relatively close-knit business community. Brianna called me exactly 19 days after our divorce finalized, her voice carrying an unmistakable mixture of shock and disbelief once I answered. She said, "Caleb, is it true? Someone forwarded me an article about Ridgeline being acquired for $22 million. I said calmly, "Yes, that's accurate." She remained silent for several long seconds before continuing, her voice noticeably shaking now. She said, "When exactly did this deal happen, Caleb? Please, I need to understand the actual timeline here." I explained everything honestly, describing exactly when negotiations began, when TechFlow submitted their formal offer, and when our board ultimately approved final terms just days before our divorce settlement meeting concluded. Brianna's breathing grew audibly heavier as I explained each specific detail, clearly processing exactly how close our timeline had aligned with our own divorce proceedings. She said, "You knew during our settlement meeting. You knew while I asked for that $5,000. And you just signed everything without saying a single word." I said, "I knew the acquisition was likely happening, yes. I couldn't discuss specific details given confidentiality agreements still active at that exact time. But Brianna, even beyond legal restrictions, I genuinely wanted us ending things naturally, based purely on how we both actually felt rather than complicated by money that hadn't officially transferred yet." She grew quiet again, clearly struggling processing this entire situation. She said, eventually, "Caleb, I spent 5 years telling you that business represented failure. I left you believing I was protecting myself from your reckless gamble, and this entire time, you were building something worth millions of dollars." I said, "I understand this feels complicated, Brianna, but you weren't entirely wrong feeling frustrated throughout those difficult years. Ridgeline genuinely struggled for a long time, and I understand exactly why watching our savings shrink steadily felt terrifying given your own background." She asked, hesitantly, whether this changed anything regarding our now finalized divorce. Her voice carrying an unmistakable note of hope I recognized immediately despite years having passed since I'd last heard that specific tone from her. I said, gently but firmly, "Brianna, our marriage struggled for reasons considerably deeper than just financial uncertainty. I don't think either of us would genuinely want reconciliation based on money alone, especially money that arrived after everything between us had already ended." She accepted this reality quietly, understanding clearly that our marriage's ending involved far more complicated dynamics than simple financial circumstances alone could fully explain. We ended that call respectfully, both genuinely wishing each other well despite everything complicated that had unfolded between us throughout our entire 5-year marriage. I used a portion of the acquisition proceeds, establishing a foundation, specifically supporting small manufacturing businesses throughout Pittsburgh, helping other entrepreneurs access exactly the kind of resources and mentorship I desperately needed myself during Ridgeline's most difficult early years. Priya became my business partner in this new venture, both of us genuinely excited building something meaningful using resources we'd never previously possessed. I think about that divorce settlement meeting often, remembering exactly how quietly I signed away our final $5,000 while carrying knowledge that would soon completely transform my entire financial future. I understand now that moment taught me something genuinely important about patience, dignity, and choosing exactly how you want difficult situations, concluding regardless of whatever complicated truth exists beneath the surface. Ridgeline's 5 brutal years taught me that genuine success rarely arrives exactly when everyone around you expects, sometimes appearing precisely during your darkest, most uncertain moments instead. I chose protecting Brianna from false hope during our divorce, understanding that money shouldn't determine whether two people genuinely belong together, even when that same money eventually proved considerably more transformative than either of us ever imagined possible. My foundation now supports dozens of small manufacturing entrepreneurs throughout Pittsburgh, watching them navigate exactly the same uncertain, difficult journey I once faced myself, hopefully with considerably more support and resources than I originally possessed during Ridgeline's most challenging years. If there's one thing I hope you take from everything I've shared today, it's this. Sometimes the people closest to you genuinely cannot see what you're building until it's completely finished, and that's okay. Keep building anyway, based purely on your own genuine belief, understanding that real success rarely announces itself clearly until you've already pushed through every single doubt surrounding you. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire story today. I would genuinely love hearing your own thoughts down in the comments section below. Have you ever kept quiet about something significant during a difficult situation, choosing dignity over proving a point? What do you think the real lesson here actually is? Please share your own experience, because these comments genuinely mean so much to me. And if this story resonated with you even slightly, please hit that subscribe button, because there are so many more stories exactly like this one coming your way very soon.